Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is a change of pace for us tonight, man. I'm really excited about this.
It is. This is a little change of pace, but let's start it off as we usually do. Man, this weather, what a slosher it was out today.
It was awful, man.
Yeah.
You know, if it's going to be this cold and rain, it might as well just be snow because this just sucked. I mean, it just really sucked today. I was like in, not a bad mood, but God, man, it was just gray, like dark gray all day long. Like you could not tell if it was 9 a.m. You could not tell if it was 3 p.m.
The perpetual 5 p.m. look,
man.
It had.
Yeah, it was nasty. And I don't know how much rain we got, but if it had been snow, we probably would have ended up with like 15 inches or more snow, I would think.
Oh, this would have been a Kentucky disaster.
Yeah.
Had everything closed down, but It was just rain. So anyway, man. Now that we've hit the weather.
Yeah, we always do that. I don't know why, but it's something easy to talk about, right? But other than that, man, I'm doing good. So I'm really excited about tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. We are actually recording on location, so it's kind of different for us. We've only done it one other time. We usually have recorded.
That's right. We've got our squadcast. We're getting better, but this whole live thing, I don't know. We're still coming around to it.
It's funny, because you start packing stuff up, and it's like, I've got a list of things. I'm like, wait, do I need that? Do I have enough of this? Do I have enough of that? And you're always thinking, man, I hope I don't get there and like, oh crap, what'd I forget? But it seemed like we did okay tonight, Matt. So I'm really excited about that. Mm-hmm. Before we jump into the show though, I need to thank our sponsors, and that's the Stave Restaurant out in Millville, Kentucky. We love what Rebecca and Eric Burnworth are doing out there. They're just great people. They've been with us as sponsors since we started. They're closed temporarily. They're doing some renovations out there right now. I think the anticipated reopen date is February the 4th. You can always check them out online at the Stave Kentucky, but once they open, you guys need to definitely get out there and check them out. They're great people, and the food's great. They're located on McCracken Pike out there between Castle and Key and Wizard Reserve Distillery. So if you're on the Bourbon Trail, they're a great place to stop. And then also sponsored by 3 Chord Bourbon. Ari Sussman, the master blender and distiller, just a really good guy. We had him on the show before. They're putting out some really great stuff up there. So check them out. You can see them online as well at 3chordbourbon.com. So definitely give them a shout, and check them out on Instagram as well, because they put up some really, really cool stuff. So Matt, with that said, you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
I'd love to. We have joining us tonight live, and we are actually, he's having us tonight since we're over at his place, but the president and co-founder of the William Tarr Distillery and great friend of the podcast, Barry Brinegar. Barry, welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thanks, Matt. It is so exciting to be here. Mark, I'll tell you, you talk about Kentucky weather, and, we just wait until a few hours and it'll be warm again. That's what I love about living here in Kentucky.
It's like my wife's mind, give her a couple of seconds and she'll change it, right? So the weather, I hope she doesn't listen. She's not listening.
And actually, Barry, to your point, I was looking at the forecast, and it is supposed to get warmer throughout this evening.
Love it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's like my wife asked Alexa today. She's like, Alexa, what's the weather? It's like, it's currently 34 degrees. The high today is going to be 33 degrees. It's like, wait a second, what? That doesn't seem right. But yeah, I guess it's going to get warmer. Her sister lives down in Nashville. And it's like 60 degrees down in Nashville today. So I don't understand that. But hey, it is what it is, Barry. But we're happy to have you on the show. Really appreciate it. And it's nice. I usually like to tell people if I've met one of our guests how we know each other. And we met. We've met a couple different times, but I know we met for sure at the Castle and Key, the Restoration Rye dinner, which is at the Stave.
At the Stave, what a fun time that was. Yeah. Rebecca and Eric have done a great thing by having campfires out there, so it's safe. You can social distance, and what a wonderful place to sip on some new released rye.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun that night. The dinners were great. The rye was great. The company was great. It was very nice to meet you, and then. I've run into you a couple other places as well. So it's always nice, being here in Lexington, because that's where you guys are located here in Lexington. So it's always nice to be able to run into fellow bourbon fans and, guys that are doing some great stuff like you guys are. So it's funny because we're down here on Manchester Street. If you guys don't know where the William Tarr, where their distillery is located, we're down on Manchester Street here in Lexington. It's the old part of the Old Pepper Distillery. I guess was this a rick house?
It is. It's a 5-story rick house. It was, I think it was built back in the 1940s. And what I love about this is every business that's located here, it has the same look and feel. These concrete pylons, and it just feels like an old rick house.
Oh yeah.
And back in the day, William Tarr and Pepper were friends. They worked together. They exchanged and bought bourbon from each other. So we're hoping to do the same thing by collaborating with other local businesses and distilleries.
Yeah, very cool. I was leading up to that because I could hear the train in the background, so I'm sure people could probably hear that train whistle. So
William Tarr has a story with rail cars. We might get into that.
We'll get into that, yeah. But we are right across the street from Manchester Street from the railroad tracks. So there are trains moving through on a regular basis. So it's funny, I can hear that rumble and then just heard the train whistle. So it takes me back to my childhood in Eastern Kentucky. There's a Bourbon Life bingo, Matt.
Yeah, I was actually gonna go back to our bingo here. It seems like maybe every time we hear a train whistle, listeners, if you're at a place where you can take a sip.
Yeah, that's right.
Who knows?
Take a sip when you hear the train whistle go by. But so Barry, take a minute if you would, or as many minutes as you'd like, and just kind of. Well, actually, before we do that, Matt, I always do that. Let's.
Ooh, good catch.
Yeah,
good catch.
let's talk about, because we got 3 different things we're going to drink.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about our first drink first, and then let's talk about who you are and stuff, if that's okay.
Absolutely. And you guys are in for a treat, because the first thing that we're going to drink today is our next release. We're getting ready to release a bottled in Bond Bourbon. And nice. So the first thing that we're going to release, and of course, doing it the right way, we're going to drink from lower proof to higher proof.
Okay.
This will be a bottled in Bond. We haven't decided on a name yet, but it is going to be a bourbon, and we're hoping this is going to be our bourbon that's going to be consistently on the shelf. And we're excited. It is from a Kentucky distillery. We're a new brand, and we'll talk a little bit about contract distilling and all the things that entails. But we our business model is a little bit different, so we'll talk about that. But here tonight, the first thing that we're going to sip on, it's a bourbon, but so we know that bourbon has to be at least 51% corn or more. This one has rye in the mash bill, and it's a 23% rye. So
Matt,
hey,
you got Matt's attention there,
Yeah, I'll tell you. And Matt and I know each other. We've sipped on bourbon at Justin's House of Bourbon a couple of times, and I know Matt. He's a culinary guy.
That's right.
Do you recall those spider peppers that you gave me?
I do recall those. Yeah.
I love those hot peppers, but man, those were hot.
I ended up. We had a bumper crop of, and I don't know what you do with peppers quite that hot, so I dried them and made powder out of it. And still sitting at home, I have this just atomic fire pepper powder that it's almost too hot to do anything with.
Oh man.
Agreed.
I've never heard of a spider pepper before.
So on the Scoville units, when they measure the heat of peppers, jalapeno, help me out here, Matt. I mean, it's probably 100 or 120 on the Scoville unit. A spider pepper is up there in the million. I mean,
I got you.
It's hot.
Yeah, these things were pretty dangerous. It was like kind of a joke that I grew them thinking this will never take off, and then sure enough I had this bumper crop and I'm trying to give away these peppers. But how do you give away hot pepper? You have to tell people do you like hot food? And okay, so do you really enjoy? And luckily Barry was let's do it, fire them up.
So it's like a ghost pepper. Those are really hot too, right?
Something
ghost peppers.
Yeah, I think these were probably even a little hotter. But
oh my God,
I think that's true.
Wow. No, I've never heard of them. I'm glad I haven't, because I'm not a hot pepper kind of guy, man. So that's funny that you guys, had that. See, I didn't even know that. So that's really cool.
Okay, so in the vein of a hot pepper, I think we should nose this and see what we can pull out.
Matt, what are you getting?
A real nice sweet caramel nose on it. And I'm not sure if this is just at 4 years or not, but I'm getting a good bit of oak.
It is at 4 years.
At 4 years, okay.
And what can you say what the mash bill is, or is it? I don't want
Well, it's 23% rye, and I'm going to have to go back into my notes, but it's in the 70% of corn and malted.
10 or 12 malt, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Barry, so what do you pick out of it? Since this is your now this is a blend, right? So
this is a bourbon. So this is going to be our bottled in Bond Bourbon that we're going to release probably June or July this year.
But I mean, it's not going to be a single. Are they going to be single barrel releases?
Yeah, great point. So we'll small batch it. We'll small batch it.
Shouldn't say a blend. I mean, it's going to be a small batch. Sorry. Yeah. I got you. Okay. So this is batched. So this is, okay.
Yeah, this is. So I've got 10 samples that I brought here. I wanted to determine if it's going to hold up to a bottled in bond. We pulled them straight from the barrel, and out of the barrel, they're ranging anywhere from 117 to 118 proof. So we did have to bring those down quite a bit to the 100 proof.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what proof is it? But then I was like, wait a second, it's a bottled in bond. It's 100. For those of you listening at home, it's 100 proof, right? So there we go. Awesome. So, well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, let's take a little sip of it here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's got good pepper on it. I like that the rye's coming through really nice with the peppery. It's not so much the baking spices, but like a real nice heat, a good pepper, a good cinnamon. Yeah. It's nice and peppery. I like that.
I mean, that sweetness still comes through a little bit, but that pepper, and that's like a black pepper.
It really it's the hot spices, so that those peppers are definitely coming through. But to your point, I am getting some of the sweet notes of the corn, that kind of round it out. But that's what I appreciate. You don't really lose a whole lot of that coming from barrel proof down to 100 proof.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty impressive, especially just the spiciness overall on this one. Kind of a surprise because on the nose. You get a lot of sweetness. You get a little bit of the spice off of it, but as soon as you take that taste, but the finish on this one, holy cow! I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. I like that spiciness that just continues, but then that sweetness every once in a while just kind of pokes back in for me, and it's a really neat combination. I like that. Matt, what else are you getting on that?
It's got the front of the palate's really sweet, really nice honey, like a toasted honey, and then it leads into that pepper. It's really, really pleasant. That's just, it's got a really great taste, and it comes through the mouth with that sweetness on the front, and then you get that nice punch of the rye coming through, and then it's finishing sweet as well. I get like a nice caramel or like a nougat flavor on the tail end of it, a good burnt sugar brulee. That's really nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, that's funny because the second taste I went back for, because the first taste I took, it was just all that rye spice.
Yeah.
And then the second taste was the sweetness, the corn. I could taste that sweetness on the front of my palate. And then it was like a creeper. You felt that spiciness of that rye just kind of coming over your palate. And then it finishes, and that sweetness comes back a little bit, but then that spiciness just really lingers on that finish, man. That's really impressive. I really like that.
And what I like about this is that we're going to aggressively price it, and we'll talk a little bit about pricing strategy later. Sure. But, I think one of the most important things is that we have to make sure that we're available to the consumer, that maybe can't afford an $80 or $150 bottle, right. But, or even the on-premise location of our bars and restaurants, they might want to make a cocktail. This would work really well in a cocktail at 100 proof. You've got those spices to kind of back it up.
Yeah.
But I like this to be more versatile, and so I think that's what we were looking for in this next release.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, because you can definitely drink this neat and enjoy it, but I could see this in a cocktail as well. That spiciness would definitely, especially like in an old fashioned or something, because you get that sweetness from the syrup, but then you're going to get that rye spice that really comes through. Yeah. So this would make a killer. This would make a killer old fashioned. Very, very nice. So Barry, let's go back a little bit and talk about you, and tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, kind of how you got involved in the whiskey industry.
Sure. I'm a native of Lexington, Kentucky, and I think that all of us that are live here, that have moved here, I think that in some degree we all understand bourbon. Unless you're a teetotaler, you're looking, I think at that industry, and so for me it wasn't any different. and grew up here again in Lexington, but I joined the Navy, moved out, and spent 4 years with the Marine Corps. I was a hospital corpsman, but I like to say that the Navy took me out of Kentucky, but the bourbon brought me back.
Nice, very nice, yeah.
And so when I got out of the Navy, I worked as a registered nurse. I worked in the operating room, and I just found that I enjoyed talking to people better and doing, working in business. And so I migrated over to a sales position, and so I've done everything from medical device sales, pharmaceutical sales. I got a degree in business administration, and I set up my own company. So I have a digital marketing company that I work with small to medium-sized businesses and national businesses. But it was in that position that I met Jill Bakehorn, my co-founder. Right. And Jill owns 903 Venues. It's an event venue right up the street from where we're located here at the Pepper Rick House. She also owns Bluegrass Catering. Okay. And so I was working with her in marketing, and she was wanting to set up a bourbon lifestyle series. And so if you guys know 903 Venues, they've got the Grand Reserve, they got Distiller Square, and they have the Speakeasy. Right. And it really lends itself to really either small to large events. And so we started working on that, and at the time she said, hey, right next door to me is Manchester Music Hall, and that's an original location of the first federally registered distillery, and it was Ashland Distillery that was brought about in 1865. And so she had grown up having the business there, learning all the things about the first federally registered distillery here in Lexington. And so she said, hey, Barry, I want to do this. I want to resurrect this. And at the time I told her no. I said, I'm actually working on a distribution model, and I can't work in 2 tiers of a 3-tier system. It's just not feasible. So I told her no, and then it was about 4 or 5 months afterwards that the distribution model wasn't going to work. And so I sent her a text back, and I said, hey, Jill, I'm available now if you need any help. And she did. So nice. So we got back together and we started. And don't you know, we started the company in January of 2020, and we launched our first products in October 15th of 2020. So wow. In the era of COVID, and in this time, we were very fortunate. And I like to tell people, it just seemed like this brand wanted to be resurrected.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's a great story, and it's funny because Ashland. When you think of Ashland, if you're from, I'm from Greenup County, and Ashland is a major city close to that. But you come to Lexington, and Ashland was the estate of Henry Clay. So was there a tie-in to Ashland, I'm assuming, with Henry Clay in some way, or?
Yes, yeah, I love the story there, and I'll tell you, as you can imagine, you know that there's an Ashland oil, there's an right. Ashland estate, and so we thought long and hard about it, and we really felt that we wanted the brand to be emerged with a person, and mm-hmm. so William Tarr bought the distillery in 1871 from the members of the Ashland Distillery, and it was Samuel M. Clay who was one of the founders of Ashland Distillery, and he was a descendant of Henry Clay.
Gotcha.
So there is definitely a connection to Henry Clay and the Ashland estate.
Yeah. Okay. My dates, I'm thinking, 1865, and Henry Clay, I don't believe was alive in 1865.
He was not. But if you know the story of Henry Clay is directly responsible for bringing bourbon to the Capitol. And that's a whole nother story.
No, I did not know that.
Maybe I'll come back and tell you that story.
Yeah. No, that would be great. Well, that's really cool. I mean, it's obviously a historic brand, a great decision to bring it back to life, and to and it's got the great connection, like you said, to Lexington. I've been here for 35 years now, so this is home to me, but it's really cool that when you can, and I had never heard, honestly, of the William Tarr Distillery, or the Old Ashland Distillery, I mean, but that's just really cool that you guys were able to find that out and bring that history back to life through this brand. I mean, it's really cool. And the fact that you guys were able to do it, I didn't know that you guys just started everything really in January of 2020. That's crazy.
Well, what we did is when we got together, we felt that it was very important that we wanted to, the history's there. Yeah, we know the history's there, but one of the most important things is to surround yourself with really good people. Sure. So we, Steve Amato is a local attorney. He actually is the attorney for the KDA, the Kentucky Distillers Association. And I was working with Steve when I was starting this distribution company. Okay. And so it was just the right fit to ask Steve to come in and help us get our DSP and get all the licensure that we needed to make this brand be viable and emerge. And Steve Amato introduced us to a bourbon consultant. And so we brought in this bourbon consultant. He's affectionately known as Beam Daddy. And so he worked for Jim Beam for like 40 years. He was a global CFO. Oh, wow. Really smart guy, but he knows the industry. And so as a result of that, he was able to help us write a business plan and then surround ourselves with other consultants. So I've got another guy that he's all, this consultant is called Don Rogers. I know a lot of people know him. He's a consultant for a lot of different brands. And, I'll just go out on the record and say he was one of the consultants that helped Rabbit Hole. And, that was a very successful story. He's helped some other brands, one in Texas and one in North Carolina. So he's in the industry. He knows, again, how to help people reach their goals. And so he introduced us to another guy who worked in operations. And so he was directly responsible for supply chain management. And so, I don't have to figure out how to order bottles, how to make sure that, I project manage from the point of getting the label approved through TTB, getting on the production schedule. And so what Jill and I found it very important to not make a mistake. You really can't afford to make a mistake in this business.
Sure.
And so, our consultants have really helped us.
Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you got a great group of people working with you guys. So that's a good thing to have, obviously. And it's made a difference because you're able to take a brand from a January 20th start or January 2020 start through a pandemic to launch the product.
Well, and I'll tell you one of the other things that is a credit to our success is the fact that we got picked up by RNDC, Republic Distribution, and they're the second largest distributor in the country. And they don't typically pick up a new brand. They don't typically pick up a craft brand, but one of our major seed investors knows the upper management, and they got us the appointment, but we got pulled or picked up by them because of the next two samples that you're going to taste.
Nice. And if we can, maybe next segment we can talk a little bit about that investor. Maybe that I
Absolutely.
think maybe I know who you're talking about there. So, and I'm sure some of our listeners probably know who we may be referring to. But we're actually at the end of our first segment. But before we close it out, let's get back to the bottled and bond that you've got here. And I got my one little sip. I saved it.
Me too.
So, Matt, what do you think, man? Final thoughts on this one.
So, Barry, was it always a plan to have a bottled and bond down the line, or did this sort of come about after the first two came out? You thought, well, what else can we put out? Where else can we go?
Well, yes, and as we get into the next two samples, you're going to understand, that they're higher proof. And I didn't really talk a whole lot about, some of the other experience that got me into the bourbon world, but I'm a member of the Lexington Bourbon Society,
right?
And I was on the board. And the Lexington Bourbon Society, I mean, what a great organization. It's a 501c7, so it's a pass-through nonprofit entity that just raises money for local nonprofits. And due to that experience, I was able to meet industry professionals, and I got to do barrel picks. And, one of the things that we believe is that why proof something down that comes out of the barrel tasting really good? It's really frustrating. So these next two samples that we're going to talk about are going to be the reason that they're at this high proof is because I wanted them there.
That's very nice. All right, Matt, final thoughts on this one?
This is great. I'm almost glad that there's like not a bottle here for me to look and say, 4 year. you could have not told me what we were drinking, and I would have never guessed this was 4-year bottled in bond. It's really good. It's got that really great nose, and it just keeps opening up even more. It's getting sweeter. I'm getting really nice sweet baked corn, like cornbread, fresh sugar, and the rye balance in it. It's really nice. It's really balanced. It's got all the right heat and spice, the good sweet finish. Very approachable, and just a really, really good bourbon. This is a hit, absolutely.
Well, Matt, I appreciate that, and I think it's approachable. You look at something else that's higher proof. This is going to hit a much broader market.
Sure,
it really is, and so that was really the reason that we had a bottled in bond, is that we wanted to have something that represented the essence of bourbon. We talk about bottled in bond, and that was the first. The first way that the government helped to protect the consumers, to make sure that it was a product that was consistent, and that 100 proof, that bottled in bond, is one of the reasons why you see such consistency.
Yeah, definitely. I saw something today on Facebook, actually, that a home that Colonel Taylor used to own. And did you see that on Facebook? That his old house.
Yeah, 600,000, I think, is, and it's going to take another 300,000 to convert it back to a home.
I started looking at the pictures. I'm like, that's going to take another $300,000-$400,000 to do. It's like, that's not going to work. But it's still pretty cool that it
Very
was
cool.
Taylor's old house over there in Frankfurt. So
if I had the money, I'd buy it.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. All right, so let's wrap up this first session. But 2 thumbs up, I think, for me and Matt both on this one.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely good.
Absolutely.
Good choice. Looking forward.
Awesome.
Release expectation time. What do you think?
Well, according to my operations guy, we're probably looking at a June launch, but you'll be able to see some of the TTB paperwork coming through. Whiskey on Instagram. They show some of the labels coming together, so probably see that in the next month or 2.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get a word from our sponsor. Take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more with Barry Brinegar from William Tarr Distillery. Thanks.
Hey Bourbon Lifers, when you're out hunting for those hard-to-find bottles or just enjoying the distilleries of Central Kentucky, you're going to work up an appetite. And when it's time to refuel, we suggest that you visit our good friends Rebecca and Eric Burnworth at the Stave Restaurant. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, close to Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, the Stave Restaurant is just off the beaten path, nestled on the banks of Glens Creek. Chef Jonathan Sanning prepares amazing food each day featuring an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. You can take our word for it. The food alone is worth the trip to the Stave. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. And you can even purchase bottles of bourbon to take home with you while you're there. Make sure to follow the Stave on Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky, or visit them online at thestavekentucky.com to stay up to date on everything that's going on. The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise, right here in the heart of bourbon country.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2 or session 2, whichever you prefer to call it, of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me, as always, is my good buddy, my bourbon drinking friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing over there?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there, having a good time tonight, man.
That's right. We're having a great time. We just wrapped up session number 1. We're back for session number 2 with Barry Brinegar of William Tarr Distillery here in Lexington, Kentucky. And should we get?
We should probably jump in and tell everybody what we're going to drink in this round.
And before you go ahead, I just want to bring it to the attention of everybody listening. You can't see, but I saved a little bit from our first round, and just the color difference in these 2 rounds here.
Yes,
and that's not to detract anything away from what we drank in the first round, the bottled and bond. But holy smokes, this next drink, which I'm very anxious to hear more about, has got just this beautiful.
I got a problem over here.
Look at Mark's cup.
Yeah,
it's empty.
Nothing.
It's clear.
It's clear, Mark. Yeah.
It's completely clear. There's nothing in that first cup.
I saved a little bit for some.
You're so
for
good.
a little science experiment here, but gosh, the color on this is just so beautiful. Just a super dark auburn copper.
Yes. Yeah. You can definitely tell that, from the observer, that this has probably had a little bit more time in the barrel.
Right.
So it's picked up a nice amber color. Love it. When I look at this, it kind of belays the idea that you're going to get a more mature flavor, just from visual.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell everybody what we're drinking on this one?
Yeah. So this is a small batch, and it's a blended whiskey, and we have a 7-year bourbon. The bourbon is a 74% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted. Okay. And then that's 40% of this small batch is the bourbon. Okay. And then 60% is going to be the rye mash bill, and that's a 37% corn, 51% rye, and a 12% malted.
Okay. All right. So I call that the barely legal rise because they're right. There's 51. Yeah. that cutoff point is, but yeah, so that's cool. So it's a blend. So what made you all decide that rather than just releasing a bourbon that you wanted to do this blend of bourbon rye?
So if you, and again, you got to think, you're talking to an owner here, you're talking to someone that really dives into the business aspect of it. Right. And so as you look at the different business models out there, look at Angel's Envy. And, I would love to emulate Angel's Envy. Sure. Or barrel bourbon. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they do is they blend. And when they bring out a profile, once it's sold out, that's it. And so, a lot of people love that. They love the idea of, this is a limited release. This being a blended whiskey. What I like to tell people is that I scoured the rick houses of Kentucky looking for the finest bourbon and whiskey.
I think that's on the back of the bottle. I was reading the bottle today. I think, it says that we searched the greatest rick, or the something like that. Yeah. I get it. So one of the things that both Jill and I felt it was very important, and we've said this several times, is that, we're creating a brand, but we want to make sure that when people taste our whiskey and taste our bourbon, they're tasting something that's really good, and they're going to buy a second bottle. Sure. And so we didn't want to come out with a product just to get it quickly out to market because that's what you're supposed to do. We wanted to bring a product to the market that people say, oh my gosh, this is really good. Sure. And so what I think you'll find is that this is a very mature flavor. It's very complex, and you guys know your bourbon, you know your whiskey, you nose it, you taste it. Matt does.
Let's not give out credit yet.
This is aged as 7 year, right?
It is.
So what's the age variance on the different barrels?
The majority of the barrels going in here are going to be 8 year.
Okay.
So obviously when you blend anything, you have to age state it. If you do age state it with the youngest barrels that are in there.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, that's true, because you're over 4 years. You don't have to technically age. So everybody listening at home, most people probably know that, but under federal law, if the bourbon or the whiskey is under 4 years old, you have to include an age statement on it. But if it's over 4, you don't have to. So that's cool, though, that you guys chose to put that in there, because there's a lot of brands out there that just don't say it, just don't put it on there. So.
And consumers were really frustrated when a lot of distilleries and brands lost the age statement, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, we want that number on there. We want to know that it's a 12 year or 10 year or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There was a lot of people upset when a lot of bigger brands decided to start doing that. So Matt, I see you're nosing it over there. I've seen you working it, man. What are you picking up on it?
The first thing I really got on the nose is a lot of like stone fruit. Pick up like raspberry and like dark cherry, currant, like a kind of red wine type nose to it. I think that has to play with the maturity, and the barrel is coming through as well. I can tell this is an older product. It's got a nice oaky undertone to it, but certainly not overpowering with oak at all.
Yeah. I remember having this at the party for Restoration Rye that we got a couple samples of this. So, and I think somebody that may be sitting at this table ended up taking the rest of that bottle home with him, but I'm not going to say who that was, but yeah, I was really impressed with it then. So I'm definitely impressed with it now, but I agree with Matt. I pick up on the nose. I get that dark cherry.
Yeah.
And some of that oak as well. So really like that. So what are we missing, Barry? You got your tasting notes over there.
Well, I'm so impressed, Matt. You said stone fruit, and that's absolutely one of them. And you talk about the dried fruit, so dates. We get dates in it. We get coconut. I get some banana on it, but not the banana that you get with some other Kentucky distilleries. I mean, it's very faint. I think we should sample it and then put a couple of drops of water in to just let it open up too.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that if I can, make it last longer, Barry. I'm glad you told me that, because it'd be like
pissed right through the first one there.
Well, we are at the distillery, so I could go back and get another bottle.
I was going to say there may be more around here somewhere, right? So, and speaking of the distillery, so we talked a little bit about the history. Yep. We talked about the old Ashland Distillery. That is the Manchester Music Hall now, which is down here on Manchester. And if you're in Lexington, everybody knows, pretty much where that place is. And then all the other businesses that Jill owns are right beside there, next door, which is really cool. But so you guys are in the old Rick House down here. So kind of plans wise, I mean, you guys obviously got things under construction down here. So what are you putting in here? So.
Well, the very first thing that we're going to put in here is going to be a bottling line, and we're gonna put that in. If when visitors come to visit us down here at the Pepper Rick House, they'll see a garage door, and that's where we're going to have deliveries of our barrels, and we're going to bottle on site here. We hope to have a consumer experience where similar to Angel's Envy, you can bottle your own bottle on the tour experience. A couple of weekends ago, it was my birthday, and my wife took me up to Louisville to Whiskey Row, and fortunately, the Evan Williams experiential tour was open, and those guys are so good.
Yeah.
It's such a fun tour, and what we can see here is something, while may not be on the level of a Evan Williams tour, it is going to be very experiential, and this Pepper Rick House is 5 stories high, and so the first floor is rented out right now. We're hoping to potentially rent out the second floor and have a multi-level experience similar to the Evan Williams experience. But we know that right now we're in in the time of COVID, and tourism just really isn't first and foremost on our minds, just because we know that we're probably looking at least the full year of 2021 before we see tourism come back fully.
Yeah. Right.
So it just doesn't make sense financially to build this thing out and have it set empty. So we're going to be focusing on, and we'll talk a little bit more about direct-to-consumer shipping that just became legal in the state of Kentucky.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that. Our business model really has focused heavily on marketing to consumers that we can legally ship to.
Nice. Yeah, very nice. And that was a nice change in the law there. So that's going to help out a lot of places, I'm sure, to have direct access to the consumer and not have to go through the whole system. But going back to your plans, talking about the business itself. Now, we made reference earlier to one of your investors, who was involved with the whole process. So you want to talk a little bit about him as well?
I do. And, what I'd like to talk about before that is that, part of our team, we assembled. One was a gentleman, Rick Baker, who has been a part of like 22 different startups. And so he's very familiar with putting together a business plan, a pitch deck. And so with his efforts, we put together a really good pitch deck. And the very first person that we pitched to was Mark Stoops, the Kentucky football coach.
Go Cats.
And go Big Blue.
That's right.
But Coach, anybody that knows Mark knows that he loves his bourbon, and he's a pretty big bourbon aficionado.
Yeah.
And I say that he's what I call a self-proclaimed bourbon expert because he drinks a lot of bourbon. And so the not this one, but the next sample that we're going to taste is a 12-year bourbon, and we had that for him. And when he drank that, he's like, I want to invest, and unfortunately, he wasn't the only decision maker. So he had to get approval. But it was the bourbon that convinced him that he wanted to be a part of it, and the story. I mean, it's such a cool story. It's he's he lived here for many years, and is giving back to the community, and so we're very fortunate to have him be on the team.
Yeah, he's a good coach. I've been a lifelong Kentucky fan, but especially going to school here for all the years I did, and season ticket holder forever. It was great to have him come into the program and what he's been able to do. I mean, obviously you have ups and downs, but they've done a really great job, and I loved it this year when they won the bowl game.
Yes,
and I guess he was talking to somebody, I don't know, maybe from Kentucky Sports Radio or whatever, and he's just like, I'm on the bus smoking a cigar and drinking a big glass of bourbon right now. And it was like, and that quote just like went wild all over the internet. I don't know if you saw that or not, but
I did. He actually called me, and then the next day he was interviewed on Tom Leach, and Tom asked him, all right, Coach, what were you drinking? And he said, I'm drinking Manchester Reserve, and that's what we're going to drink right now.
Very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, that's always good when you can get that. But he's obviously very, like you said, I mean, he's into the bourbon. And it was funny, I was at OBC Kitchen, I guess it was last year maybe, and I saw one of the bartenders pouring up an entire round of Weller 12. And I was like, man, I talked to the bartender. I'm like, somebody's having a good time tonight. I'm like, I want to join that party. And he's like, that's Coach Stoops. He's over there in the corner with his buddies. I was like, all right, that explains that. So
I've been to several meetings with Coach over there at OBC, and I just love it. I mean, those of us who know OBC, holy crap, they've got such a great bunker. Have you seen their bunker?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So upstairs on the second floor, they have this closet, and it's full of difficult to find bourbons and whiskeys, and I love that place. Coach has bought me a couple of really nice pours there.
Yeah, very nice. Well, we had Chris Hainers, the general manager over there, and Chris is actually from my hometown, Flatwoods. We go, another Bourbon Life bingo. He's a little bit younger, but we had him on the show actually. One of our first guests, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so we had a good time with Chris, and he was extremely kind and brought us some Weller Full Proof and a 7-year-old Willet, and then the last of a bottle of some Pappy 23.
Yeah,
wow.
So we're just like,
if I can give a plug to OBC and Chris, they do some barrel picks, and us in the community, we know we can go over there.
Yeah.
On Friday they do the special tasting
$5 pours.
Yep. Chris is going to have me over there. We're going to do a special pour. We were hoping by the end of January, but it'll be sometime in February. Okay. But check out their barrel picks. They've got a package license, so you can buy it by the bottle.
First barrel pick I ever did was with OBC down at Jim Beam. We went to we picked a Knob Creek, picked about a 15-year-old barrel. So sorry, Matt wasn't able to join us that day.
Sorry.
Maybe next time, Matt.
But yeah, we kind of gotten off track there, but that's all right. We should probably get back to this bourbon, right?
Yes. So this small batch blended whiskey.
I'm sorry, I keep saying bourbon, but.
We kind of universally say bourbon, but we confuse our consumers when we do that because we switch back and forth.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, so Matt, what else are you picking up on this one over there?
Well, just to get back to it real quick. So this is 114 proof. I don't know if we hit that yet.
Thank you.
And also, Barry, what was the decision to do the blending between a rye and a bourbon, and not just blending like different mash bill bourbons or different mash bill ryes, but to bring the two together? That's an interesting decision. I definitely like it, and I'm curious to hear the reasoning and why you wanted to go that route.
It's kind of a contrast, isn't it? And it doesn't seem like it works. But when we started blending, we knew that we were onto something.
Yeah.
And so initially this was a little bit higher rye percentage, but once we added on to about 40% of the bourbon percentage, it really rounded it out. Nice. So I think what we were looking for is we were looking for complexity. We were looking for just a lot of different notes that pop up there. And I think so. What you'll find that rye really holds its own, and then it finishes with a very mature flavor. So
yeah, and that's one thing I was going to note as we were tasting it was the fact that even at 13% on the rye, But it is a 51% rye. So yeah, that rye really shines through. I keep getting in my head, that I'm thinking a low rye bourbon, and I forget that it's
blended with rye.
I know, that's what I keep forgetting that. And it's like, but that rye really shines through. Now it's not like the bottled in Bond that we drank earlier, because that was really more like a black peppercorn, a kind of really spicy.
Yeah, I think that might be something with the younger, the rye at 4 years versus a rye at 8 years.
Yeah,
I know a lot of times when you get a rye, when you start getting up in age, 8, 9, 10, you kind of start to lose a little bit of that flavor as it settles more into the barrel. A lot of the beautiful rye spices sort of start to mellow. So it's nice to sometimes catch them beforehand, where you can still get some of that young characteristic of the rye, the spice, the peppercorn, like the bottled in Bond that we had with that 23% at 4 years. That nice, spicy, crisp rye pepper comes through in that. And then the bourbon in this is 7 years. That's like you're hitting right in the perfect wheelhouse for where a bourbon should be, to have so much great flavor, but still not taste like it's fresh off the still. Yep. It has some barrel interaction in it. So I think you're hitting the best of both worlds on this.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, you bring up a great point is, when that rye stays in the barrel for that long, it really does bring up some different notes, some baking spices that you don't typically see on a younger rye. There's no ethanol on it. Have you all gone in for a taste yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's see, Barry, I'm saving mine for a couple of drops, so I'm going to sit back. But yeah, I've tasted it. It's funny because I was going to that rye because I keep thinking in my mind it's a low rye bourbon, and I forget the blend. And then I taste that rye spiciness. But to me, it's almost more like a cinnamon type of spice than the black peppercorn that we had from that bottled in Bond. It's spicy, but it's a different kind of spicy. It's a sweet, almost like a red hot cinnamon to me, which is really nice. I like that finish on that. Matt, did you drop a little water in yours?
I've not done it yet, but I get the rye, and the spice that's coming through on this is like more the baking side, but I'm picking up like cardamom, picking up like the rye grain. I'm just like thinking of things that you might like bake into a loaf of bread, like more of those, but not. Unlike Mark, I'm not getting like the nutmeg or the pumpkin spice type flavors, but I get like the really nice matured baking spice, like cardamom again, and like some green peppercorn. Just like,
I think that what happens, I get like this clove honey, so the sweet corn really comes through there for me. But I also get, I don't know if you guys are picking up on this, but I do get some mint. So if you add that water to it, for me, it really helps accentuate that.
I was just going to say, I just added like 5 drops, and the first thing I noticed was that I got that little back end, a little bit of mintiness to it off the rye, which I really enjoy it when I can pick up the mint. So yeah, I definitely starting to get that now. It's opened up. I don't know if you get that, Matt.
Yeah, it's coming through. I haven't tasted it yet with the water, but the nose has changed a little bit, and more of that spearmint is coming through, and a little bit more of the lemon thyme coming through on the nose with a touch of water. It's like really opening up to a more herbal, earthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think it also changes some of the spices for me. I do get more cinnamon. I get some fennel on it, so it really does change the characteristics when you open it up. And that's what I love about it. And this is a bourbon aficionado's whiskey because it's at 114. You just proof it down to the level you like it. You like ice in it, put the ice in there and enjoy that cascade as it dilutes down to your proof.
Yeah, but and this is 114. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's really nice. And I remember having it out there at the stave that night, and I thought, man, this is real. It's the first time I had it, so I was really impressed. I was really looking forward to getting down here with you and getting to taste through it with you and just talk a little bit more about it. So yeah,
and that was a great weather night to enjoy. A whiskey like this. It's got a little to it, and I was trying to be careful because I didn't want to take away from Castle and Key. I mean, that was their first launch of Restoration Rye and the cocktails that they had. But I was really happy to meet Will and Wes and the launch team, and very excited for them. But yeah, this is one that you can enjoy. In the wintertime. summertime. If you're going to drink this in the summertime, you're probably going to put a little ice in it.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
And, to me, this was one that I would prefer to drink neat. We talked about the bottled and bond earlier, using it, potentially in a cocktail. This one, I guess you could if you chose to, but once you get to that 7-8-year-old range, that's usually not the type of whiskey I'm going to be mixing up into a cocktail.
This one's not made for the cocktail community. You can do a cocktail, and we've done some really good cocktails with orange and apple, and we've got some recipes on our website. But I'm kind of like you. I'm going to drink this neat.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Now, I saw something the other day, I think, on social media. Did you had some type of an event maybe, and you were doing some cocktails, and there was one that looked like it was marshmallows maybe or something?
Yes,
or what?
Yeah.
What was that?
We've got a couple of mixologists, and one that works with Jill is really specializing. He's done a lot of different cocktails, and so that one really takes advantage of the sweet from the marshmallow to combine with the spices. But he's done several. He's done the cocktail that is an apple cider whiskey, and it really, if you can imagine, it really accentuates the spice flavors in this one.
Definitely. Yeah, I just saw that picture and it was like, it's stuck in my mind. I'm like, what the hell is that? I need to know what this drink is.
That's dessert in a glass.
That's what it yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. Well, we're actually at the end of session 2 already, believe it or not. But Matt, before we wrap it up, what are you thinking on this one?
I love any time that I can drink something neat and pick up a bunch on it and then drop a little bit of water in there. And it just opens up so much more to it. And this really, really hits home. It's got a great, nice, oily mouthfeel to it as well. Like the finish really sticks to the roof of the mouth. I keep tasting it through and through. I'm picking up again on the dark stone fruits, more of that plum, and then just the spices, the cardamom, a little bit of ginger and clove, like you said, Barry, are coming through. And it's really, really great, really complex, but approachable. It's not, I'm not sitting here like trying to decide what it is. I'm tasting the flavors for me are all there. It's really great. And what a cool decision to be blending bourbon and rye in this. It's like you're hitting best of both worlds for me.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thanks, Matt.
So real quick before I was thinking about this earlier, was there a profile specifically that you guys were actually looking for when you were doing this? Or was it just, hey, look, these barrels taste this way, we're blending them, we're kind of going this direction, and you just kind of let the barrels guide you that route? Or was it something in your mind you wanted to really kind of shoot for?
I think that I'm just going to say I was lucky. Better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
no doubt.
And I'm the chief blending officer, but I recognize that we're going to be bringing in a master taster, a master blender, and so we're talking to a couple of people right now that are going to lead the charge.
Gotcha.
For the next blended whiskey that we have. But I think that I was lucky on this one. And again, I'm going to owe it to knowing really good people in the industry that got me access to the right barrels that allowed us to bring this together.
Yeah, very nice. It's great job. I'm a fan. Like I said, from the night that you gave me that first sample, I was like, this is a really good bottle. Now, what's the retail? Can we talk about that on this one? Yeah,
this one's $79.95.
Okay.
And you can imagine a lot of the folks that are in the bourbon world, the whiskey world, when they start seeing the price point get up there above $50, they really need to see tasting notes. They need to try it for themselves. And
right.
what I would tell most people is that, if they're here local, just come on down to the distillery. I'll give them a sample of it.
Nice.
We've got a tasting license, and I would love the opportunity to get this in front of people. And we're going to bottle 100 ml samples, and also we're going to be doing virtual events. So you're going to have the opportunity to taste this and try it out first, because this is one I believe that you try it out, you're going to be willing to spend $79 for a bottle of this whiskey.
I would agree with that, Matt, wouldn't you?
Yeah, having not had this coming into our before this podcast, it definitely stands up. It's no reason that I won't be buying a bottle. I'll say that much for certain. This is
Nice.
Definitely good stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because my bottle now is, it's slow. I don't know what happened over the last couple of weeks. It just keeps getting lower and lower, Barry.
Well, if you're in Lexington, we do curbside pickup for our spirits. But if you're in one of the reciprocal states, we can ship now legally, so we can direct ship. So you can just get on the website and order it, and we'll ship it out to your destination.
Yeah, man, that changes the law. That's just awesome. You guys can do that.
That's so cool.
Great. All right, well, let's take a quick break, get a word from our other sponsor, and we'll be back with more with Barry Brinegar with William Tarr Distillery in just a minute. Thanks.
Hey, Bourbon Lifers. We want to take just a second and tell you a little bit about Three Chord Whiskey. Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call perfectly tuned taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them all together. After each blend is completed, the Three Chord team then applies their proprietary process of pyrolysis, that's a lot to say, isn't it? Which involves heating American oak to precise temperatures to release specific flavor and aroma compounds. Then they use another proprietary method called rhythmic disruption process, and that's more than just playing music to a bunch of barrels, which integrates all of those related compounds into the blended spirit. Finally, each small batch blend of Three Chord is evaluated by a trained sensory panel to ensure an uncommon depth of flavor, character, aroma, and a perfectly tuned taste in each bottle. With their introductory blended bourbon, their Amplify Rye, Strange Collaboration, which is a Pinot Noir finished Kentucky bourbon, their 94 rated 12-bar reserve, and the brand new highly coveted 15-year Kentucky bourbon they call the Whiskey Drummer, there's a lot of options available from Three Chord. Like the feeling you get when you hear that perfect song, you'll know that the Three Chord line of whiskeys are right from the first sip. They resonate with so much flavor, you'll want an encore. Find out more about Three Chord whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and final session of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me, as always, still here, thankfully, is my good friend, Matt.
I'm not stepping out into the rain until I have to.
I don't blame you, man. Just nasty weather out there still. It's awful.
But we are here. We are live.
We are live.
We are live in person.
Yeah, we are in person.
I mean, we're always live, but we're actually on location, I should be saying here.
This is only the second time we've actually been on location to do a recording, Barry. So this is
wow.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting for us. We're happy to do it. The thing that makes me the happiest is the fact that we got all the shit together.
We didn't leave anything.
Yeah, we didn't forget anything.
I didn't get down
Mark
there.
and I aren't sharing a microphone.
Like we got two heads and one set of headphones or something like that, So yeah, we nailed this one, Matt.
Yeah, so far off to a great start. And we've made it this far. We're into session number 3.
Yes, we are. That's right. Third and final, man.
Yeah. We are here in Lexington at William Tarr Distillery with Barry Brinegar, the president and co-founder, and also the guy who is leading up the blending charge right now. Currently, the master blend. Are you master?
No, I'm the chief blending officer.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what. We're humble to be in this industry, and the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to put myself off as somebody that's been around this industry for decades, and it's fun to be a part of it, but when I look at things, I'm going to bring in somebody that has a master palate.
Sure.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you're looking to make a move to a startup distillery, man, give me a call. I'd love to bring in some huge talent, but we're going to bring in a master palate that is going to take us to new heights.
Very nice. So Stoops isn't your master taster. I figured he might be the guy that's going to be like, look, it's going to be me. And that's it.
Can I just qualify that Stoops tastes everything that we put together?
I kind of had a feeling you'd probably say that. So,
well, in the meantime, if you need like a somewhat mediocre palate, Mark and I are fairly available for about a quarter the price of a master palate.
Anytime, you guys come in anytime. In fact, I do plan on doing some community tasting events with local bourbon folks.
Sure.
And so maybe when we pick a different blend, maybe we bring in some folks to try to get it to the right proof level, or some community involvement. But you guys would definitely be on that list.
Well, we appreciate it. I know Matt would be for sure. I'll be there just to back up Matt and say yes.
Right.
What Matt said.
What Matt said.
No, there are no right or wrong answers. Everybody tastes differently. We all know that.
That's right.
Matt, I'm comfortable and confident in my role in this team that we have going here, man. So embrace it and love it, man, because you do a great job at what you do. There's no question about it, for sure. You are my Tony Romo to my whatever the other guy's name is. Nobody even knows who the other guy is.
No, we all know I'm the Ed McMahon to your Johnny Carson. Yeah.
I was going to see the captain to the Tennille, but that's way long ago.
Oh yeah, taking it back old school, back to the days when you and I were kids, Barry.
Yes.
All right, so we moved on to round 3 here. Do you want to tell everybody what we're drinking in this third and final session? So
we're drinking a one in every 12 to 15 year bourbon. It's a 12-year age stated bourbon, and it's a 74% corn, 18% rye, nice. And 8% malted. Okay. And as we're looking at this, I mean, you compare it to the Manchester Reserve, and you're seeing a whole lot more of that summer wheat, just a much deeper color in comparison. So that, this is something's happened to this to make it a little bit deeper color.
Well, I'm glad you left some in your glass from before, because again, mysterious. I must have a hole in the bottom of my cups here.
That's Barry. 2 in a row, Mark.
He's batting 1,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Consistent.
Remember the Clean Plate Club over there.
Well, like I said during the break, I had to stop at Goodfellas Pizza before I came over here, so I had to have a slice. So I did get some good some grub in my belly before I started drinking, so I'm good.
Yeah, and everybody should run out to Goodfellas Distillery District, because they have one of the best bourbon bars in town.
Yeah, that's great. I was sitting there, I was just scarfing my pizza down, but I'm just scouring the bar thinking, I could definitely come back down here and hang out and have some nice pours, and they had a really good selection as I was just noticing over there, so that's great. All right, so this one, tell us a little bit more about what we're drinking here, Barry.
So, what we're drinking here is, again, like I said, it's you don't find this kind of a 12-year very often on the market, and again, due to the fact that we had really good bourbon consultants, we had the opportunity to get this really matured. This is an ultra premium, super limited release. We only had 1,500 bottles of this, and what we're tasting here is this is a small batch, and so I had several barrels that I really wanted to have a more, I hate to use this term, but a little bit more balanced flavor profile. Okay. So we're going to have a bonus pour of one of my barrel proofs. Nice. That's 125 proof, but this is 120. Okay. And the barrels that I did a small batch of this were only 1 or 2 proof points away from 120. So they ranged anywhere from 121 to 122 proof. But what I found is that I needed a little bit more balance in this 12 year.
Yeah. Matt, what are you picking up? See, I'm going to go right to Matt. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm not even going to start. I'm just going to go right to Matt and ask him what he's getting.
How many barrels were you getting for the batch if you have 1,500 bottles?
Yeah. So this is about 900 bottles here, and I think we had a total of 8 barrels that we were able to blend together.
Gotcha.
Okay. It's got a really sweet nose. Like the first thing I picked up was like a little marshmallow, but then I pick up again the dark stone fruit and the maturity. Like maybe the marshmallow I'm getting might be from oak, from the age on it and the toasted oak, but almost like a smoky char.
Yep.
Like a nice oaky barrel note that with the sweetness like gives me maybe a little campfire and the marshmallows coming through there, but the stone fruits in it, the plum.
Mm-hmm. I get kind of like almost like a brown sugary type of, and even like some dark cherry to it as well. And I'm just going to tell you what it reminds me of, because I love high proof bourbon, and I have a favorite, what I would call probably my favorite regular drinker that Matt hooks me up with when he goes to Michigan, because he can always find it. But I love
your house bourbon.
My house bourbon, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Oh yes,
I absolutely love the Elijah Craig Barrel, and I will tell you that smelling this, it actually to me is reminiscent of an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So,
and have you had the toasted barrel, the Elijah Craig toasted barrel?
Yeah.
So Matt's spot on. I get that smoked honey. I get the caramel. I do get some toasted pecans on it. I get also a light dill aroma.
I wasn't picking that up, but Matt may. I don't know if he gets on the nose. You're picking up the dill. I'm not catching that, but to me, it's like, oh yeah, it's sweet. But man, I'm digging the nose, and I went ahead and went in. These glasses don't last long for me, Barry. So, but man, on the taste of it, the same thing. I get that sweetness, almost like a brown sugary sweetness, sugary, maybe creme brulee type of sweetness to it. A little bit of that dark cherry, some oak to it that Matt was talking about on the nose, and extremely just reminiscent to me of that ECBP, which is one of my all-time favorites just to drink, man. So love it.
Yeah, I definitely get a long finish here, and what I like about that long finish is that it just continues to hammer creme brulee. It hammers the sweet of the corn. I do get some subtle hints of cinnamon, but it's also got a great mouthfeel. It coats your mouth. Yep. It's very viscous.
It's like an oiliness. Yeah. You get that, Matt? Are you picking that up?
Yeah, it's got a really, really great coating on the tongue that just lets that finish keep going on and on, like you're saying, Barry.
Yeah, non-chill filtered. Non-chill filtered. So now the bottling, you guys aren't doing it here at this point.
Not yet,
but you will be. Yeah.
We will. The first thing that we're going to put in here is a bottling line. And, so we're going to meet with our architect and our general contractor, who just happens to be Rebecca Burnworth and Eric Burnworth.
They're owners of the Stave restaurant.
Multi-talented.
Yeah, they are.
But what I can tell you is they know what they're doing, and Rebecca has done architecture design for many businesses here in the Lexington, Kentucky area. So, if you've been into Ethereal Brewery, if you've been into Oscar Diggs, her handiwork is in those businesses and more.
Yeah, or Boondogs.
Yes.
Did you go out there by
chance? I
chance?
have not been out there yet. I was kind of afraid the crowd was going to be just overwhelming. I heard there was a great launch.
Went out there Wednesday night. They had a little media thing, and Tim Jones, one of the owners, he's actually a former guest on the podcast as well. So Tim invited me out, and my wife and I got to run out there on Wednesday night for just a little pre-opening shindig, and she had a hot dog, and I had Italian sauce. Man, I'm telling you, it is. You got to check that place out.
I think you and I are both foodies. I think we like to eat.
Yeah.
I never miss a meal.
Matt's. He's the lean, mean Iron Man machine that can cook it all. So Barry and I, you can cook it, and we can eat it.
Thank you, Matt.
So Matt, what else? What are you picking up over there now that you're getting into drinking it?
I pick up the caramels coming through on the palate. Again, I'm getting the stone fruit, the really great plum, and almost something like grapes. Like, I don't want to say fermented grapes because that would be wine. I'm not getting like wine, but it's got like a really nice dark grape, almost like leading to I don't want to say anise because it doesn't taste like fennel or licorice, but like maybe a touch of like coffee or something, like a nice bitterness coming through. A lot of times when people say bitter, you think it's something very unpleasant, but I think it's actually really very pleasant coming through with it. And it might be, again, like to some of the oak with the barrel char, but it's a nice toasty flavor to it.
Yeah. And I really hate this term, but it really is true. I mean, there's some complexity here, but for me, it's well balanced. Yeah. And that was what we were going for with the small batch, is that we wanted something that had a little bit more balance. When we try this barrel proof, I think you'll get to see the difference here. There were some notes in the barrels, and so I have 4 different single barrels that we're offering for sale, and those are mostly exclusive to the gift shop. I have to put a little bit in distribution, but you can only find the single barrel barrels here at the distillery. So if you're, and the price point is $300. It's an ultra premium release, and this just sets the statement that we're coming out of the gates. We're not coming out with clear spirits. That's not part of our strategy. We're not going to make gin and vodka. We're bringing bourbon and whiskey products immediately to market, and we wanted to bring really good products to market.
Yeah. So did you guys, when you came up with the pricing decision on that one, what was the thought process behind that? Did you have like, are we going to do it at this price point? Are we going to have to go lower? I mean, how did you guys reach that?
So this is what I'll tell you. Having a global spirits guy and Beam Daddy, the business side of it is that you have to have a certain profit margin on every release you do. So you can't lose money. You can't afford to bring a product to market and just break even. And so what we wanted to do, we recognize that this is a premium product, but the price really is dictated on how much that barrel cost. Whatever that barrel costs, there's a built-in process and spreadsheet that you have to follow to make sure that you're able to pay for the bottling, pay for all the things that go into it. And then we recognized, it's $300. We have a great packaging. You can see here beautiful. That the packing, the box is it's a very nice commemorative box. If someone buys one of these through the gift shop, I'll give them an autograph label, a commemorative autograph label that Coach Stoops has signed. I've only been asked to sign 2 bottles yet, but I don't know how many people would want Barry Brinegar's signature, but man, I'd take Mark Stoops' signature every day.
There you go. Well, you're a co-founder, man, so people should definitely want that on their bottles. At least I would think so. So Matt, you got some water in there now. What do you?
Yeah, I did. I followed Barry's lead here.
Oh, now it's like I watched him do it. I'm like, okay. Now, is that official Kentucky limestone water there, or is that Lexington tap?
This is very official Kentucky limestone. We drilled deep into the layers to get down, so nothing touched the surface.
Gotcha.
It's all underneath. And there is a product out, limestone water, that I would absolutely recommend. And if you can't find that, then just go get distilled water out of the jug. And if you can't find that, get water out of the tap and proof it down. There's no magic in this. It does open things up, so whether you use tap water or you use distilled water, they do the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definittle. Matt, so how did it affect yours over there?
It brings out a little more of the caramel. I'm getting it almost like a touch of like butterscotch or just like a nice toasted sugar, which also I think it would be the caramel. But again, it goes back to those stone fruits. And it brought out, we were talking about creme brulee. I think that's good. Like the vanilla is really starting to shine through, and like almost like a cannoli with like that, like the crust of like an Italian cannoli or something. It's got that little bit of the bakingness to it. Something like a baked product.
I think what surprises me is that this is 120 proof, right?
Yeah.
And then the bottled in bond, of course, was 100 proof. But because of the rye spice in that, it drinks, I mean, for lack of a better term, hotter to me when I drink that 100 proof bottled in bond. It's spicy from that rye. And to me, that I think into some other drinkers, it would probably translate into being hotter than 120 proof. Because I think when you say 120 proof, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, that's, wow, that's really up there and it's going to burn my mouth up. And it really doesn't. I mean, this is a very, very approachable bourbon for 120 proof. I'm really surprised.
I don't get any hug on it. I know that it's a higher proof. If you drink enough, you can determine whether or not it's hot because of spice or it's hot because of proof, or sometimes with this higher proof, you get a little sensory effect, so you get a little numbing in the with the mouthfeel. That's what I get with this one, but I don't get a Kentucky hug when you drink something and it burns from the mouth down to the gut.
Yep.
And I definitely don't get that.
Yeah, no, I don't pick that up at all. It's funny because the finish on this, even with the water added to it, it just continues to go. And that sweetness, but that a little bit of that spiciness as well in the tongue. What about you, Matt? You're over there like looking off, like thinking. You're deep in thought, Matt. I want to know.
Well, I was sitting here thinking about some of the flavors that we've had tonight. When I think Mark, you were talking about the bottled and bond first, really had that nice punch of the peppercorn, which was really great. And I think maybe part of that was the younger age, that rye really shines through the rye in that one at 23% rye. But 4 years, it's still got some of the youth in it, so that rye's still kicking around. And then we went, and the Manchester Reserve was 7-year age stated, but it's really 7 or 8 year product in there. And the rye in that was a little bit more subdued, as it was a little older, and it led to more like green baking spices, a little more ginger, cinnamon, cardamom. And this, again, too, it's just like the rye is playing more of a mature role in it. And I pick up kind of the same things that we've been talking about with the creme brulee. Yep. And it's really good. It's balanced. It's certainly not giving me too much of anything, but it's got a lot there with complexity. So it's certainly not simple-minded. It's got a lot to play with, and the finish is super long. So that's a nice thing. One little sip goes a long way for sitting there and tasting it.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, Barry, it's you're talking about the price point in it and finding such super premium product. I know from a bourbon lover's perspective, it would almost be like a shame to come across this, because I would want to like share it with everybody. But you're running a business, you have to have a price point, and you have to know how much things are going to cost. Because gosh, it would be so much fun to just like stumble across these barrels and be like, get the buddies together and be like, oh no, this stuff is so good, you've got to have it.
Yeah.
Like, here, just take it, go. So that's like that'd be a tough decision.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Mark Stoops and I both said we wanted a barrel of this 12-year, and so him and we did buy a barrel each. Oh, so I've got in the back of the storeroom, somewhere way back in the back, is Mark's that are locked up, and then I've got some, and I think that the founders, we wanted to have some that we could utilize when we have VIPs that come over.
Sure.
And so. The nice thing about owning a distillery is when you find a product and you really like it, you just buy a barrel and
nice.
Put that aside.
Yeah, very nice. Speaking of buying barrels, so is there any plans for you guys in the future to do any type of barrel picks with people and work with other clubs or groups or whatever?
Yeah, that was the one thing that I loved about the Lexington Bourbon Society is that they do a lot of barrel picks, and unfortunately now when you do a barrel pick, the distillery picks it out for you. But the benefit of that is that they know what they're doing, and they're going to pick out a really good barrel, and they'll ask you some questions. So absolutely, we're going to embrace the clubs. We're our investors, and if you're a member of the VIP club, we're going to take you out, and maybe we just bring you into the distillery and we bring several barrels and do tastings and pick out one, and then we could bottle it here. And so I could see an instance where if someone wants to come and pick out a barrel, maybe we immediately go to bottle it, and they go do their bourbon tour, and come back later in a day or two and pick up their barrel in the bottle. Yeah, so we're definitely going to do that. We'll partner with anybody. If you're a social club and you're doing a fundraiser, then we're happy to help you with that. And we're currently doing fundraisers for various nonprofits. And typically what we do is we just set aside 10% of everything that's purchased through the folks that are wanting to do the fundraiser. We'll give that back to the fundraiser. So we'll do the same thing with bourbon groups. If you just want to come down and pick out a barrel, then we'll help you do that too.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. The Bourbon Life barrel pick, Matt, it's got such a wonderful ring to it.
That's right. I like it. I like that.
Yeah.
And Barry, you were saying you are now able to ship direct to consumers, correct? With your products that you have out on the market, not just barrel picks, but with the Manchester and the Inheritance.
Yeah, and so we're working with a company called Spirits 360. They're a online fulfillment company. They're based out of Florida, but we can ship. There's 11 reciprocal states right now, but if you look currently what's happening with the federal government, the United States this year in 2021 is going to sell more liquor online than China. And that trajectory is going to continue to increase over the next 4 years. And so what I've heard and what I'm seeing currently is that potentially every state in the union will open up to direct-to-consumer shipping.
That'd be very nice. Yeah, it'd be great to see that.
Yeah. The only caveat is, even in Kentucky, we know that there's some dry counties. So if you unfortunately, if you live in a dry county, we can't ship directly to consumer there. However, we can ship to a UPS fulfillment center. You can go and sign for it there.
Pick it up there.
Yeah.
That's really cool. We're actually, we're at the end, but I don't want to wrap it up yet. I'm having fun. But let's talk about the distillery itself and what you guys are doing, where people can find you guys, your product, and you all also in terms of your presence online and things. So how can people find more about William Tarr?
So you can find us right now, and again, I'm a digital marketer. So one of the things that my marketing company, Lexington Creatives, does is we manage social media management. So we're currently on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. I do believe we'll be on Twitter sometime in the near future. Okay. And then our website, wmtarrdistillery.com, you can find us there, and you can find the e-commerce site to order your bottle and pick it up curbside delivery here at the distillery, or have it shipped directly to your door.
Yeah, it's funny because every time I get on Facebook, I keep seeing this video of the William Tarr Distillery and I see Barry talking in his video. So that's really cool. How long ago did you guys do that video?
I should give a shout out to our local PR marketing company, Weiser Strategies. Nancy Weiser is working with us, and so she's got a great team there. We do videos, and so that was part of our launch, was to just create an awareness campaign, and so if you're in the targeted markets that we're sponsoring that, you'll see that pop up on your timeline, but you'll start seeing now an ad that talks about direct-to-consumer shipping, and we're actually taking that national. So you'll be able to see some consumers will be able to see that if they're out in the West Coast and on the East Coast. And so we're just trying to, again, create awareness that we are able to ship direct-to-consumer. And I should give a little plug here. We're going to be putting out a lifestyle video, and it's a very famous actor, comedian. It's his daughter that's doing the production, and so I'm excited. You're gonna see some really fun professional videos about William Tarr.
Very cool. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, I like what you guys are doing, obviously, and you've got the background and the creativity to go along with that. So that's really cool that you're doing that. So Matt, before we wrap it up, let's talk about the inheritance. What are your final thoughts on that one?
Oh, it's great. I mean, talk about super premium. This is super premium. It's balanced. Nothing's out of sync, but it's complex. There's a lot there. This is like a good bourbon to sit around and really think about, to enjoy it. Don't take it too seriously, because it's more important about who you're drinking with and what you're drinking. But this is really great. This would be a fun one to get some people together and just see what everybody's tasting, because I think it has a lot to offer. It's got a really great balance. I pick up the really great stone fruit, the vanilla, the honey, caramel, like the creme brulee that we were talking about, comes across really well. A touch of the rye on the finish, but man, that finish, it's still there.
I agree, man. And I finished mine probably 5 minutes ago, Matt. It's funny how that happens. Gosh, I don't know how that works like that, but yeah. Anyway, but I agree with you. I mean, you're really good on that, Barry. I really enjoyed that one. So that was very. And it's funny because I was talking about the barrel proof Elijah Craig, and a lot of times when I drink that, I do get that hug. I get that hard burn, and I don't get any of that with what you guys are doing here. So that's really nice that you get those well-rounded flavors, those barrel proof, 120 proof. But you're not getting that burn all the way down, which makes it so much more approachable. So, yeah, very nice. I like that. All right, so before we wrap it up, Barry, anything else you want to add that we missed or skipped or?
Well, I think one of the things that I would say is that we have a lot of great history here in Kentucky and in Lexington specifically, But I would say that, for anyone that's looking to come do a bourbon trail experience and you want to know what the best distillery is to go visit, I would say you want to visit every one of them and make a plan. Yeah. And either you start with the first federal registered distillery or you end with the first federally registered distillery, which is the William Tarr Distillery.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Matt, before we wrap it up, anything else you want to add?
Hey, Barry, thanks so much for having us over and for being such a great guest with us and taking us through the history of the Old Ashland Distilling Company and what became William Tarr and how you've resurrected it and your plans for the future and where it's going. It's been super interesting, and thanks for sharing what you all have on offer right now. I think the future is going to be super bright, and we're really excited. I know I am, especially to see what you all have to offer in the future and to get this in front of more people, because I think it's right there. People just need to taste it, and they're going to realize exactly what you've put in the bottle and all the care and all the love that's in there, because that's really, I think, just one of the hardest parts for someone just starting up is you need to get it in front of people, and this will definitely stand up to itself. I think you've got the product there. It's just out to change minds and get people hooked.
Well, you are welcome, Matt, and thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate you guys, and what a fun time it was tonight. And I think we should sample another single barrel when we finish here.
I was gonna say off air. I think we may have to do that for sure, Barry. But we really appreciate it. And again, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for having us down here. Like Matt said, I had a great time. The stuff you guys are putting together and putting out, it's really good, and hopefully this will allow other people out there to get familiar with you guys and encourage them to pick up some of your product, which would be great. And we're thrilled to have you guys as part of the Lexington bourbon community as well. So we're looking forward to what you guys are going to be doing in the future. So awesome. With that said, I do need to thank our sponsors again, the Stave Restaurant out in Millville, Kentucky. We've given out several plugs now for for Rebecca and Eric, not only the Stave Restaurant, but their architecture and design and everything else that they do together. But check them out online at the Stave Kentucky. They are closed right now for some renovations, but they'll be back open again February 4th, I believe is the date. thestavekentucky.com. Check them out online. Just great people. And then also 3 Chord Bourbon. We appreciate their sponsorship as well. So check them out at 3chordbourbon.com. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.